Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today's guests we have Dr. Milan Sambark. Welcome to the show, Milan.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Great to have you as always. And Jim Eid from Eid Foundations. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Sasha. Great to be here.
Yes, so it's Wednesday, and it's not Green Wednesday;
All
it's Red
right.
Wednesday, and this is something. It's almost like a situation which happens once every couple of months, where a day where there is nowhere to hide. It's gold which is down, it's high tech which is down, it's financials down, everything is down, and all you can do is. Always protect yourself, and one of the great way to protect is selling covered calls. I by the way, what I did is when Nvidia shot up to 144, I was able to buy
Wow.
500 shares at 142, and then I sold covered calls November 29, expiration date 148, the exercise price, and I was paid $9 for those calls. So if then stock is now 139 approximately, so until stock reach 134 on the downside, I'm still protected by selling these cover calls. So then I'm not worried about too much. In my opinion, that 140 was a resistance for NVIDIA for quite a long time. I would say 3 months, if not more. And now, according to normal metrics, now 140 is supposed to be a support level on NVIDIA. It's been broken down. It's 139, but let's see when NVIDIA will finish the date today. So we'll establish whether 140 still keeps as a support level, or maybe it will be taken down. So then next support level is 135. So we'll see. Now, on the other hand, of course, AMD is down as well. But what interesting is that TSM is up, and that's quite curious situation. So because TSM is supplier of both NVIDIA and AMD, and is doing so well, but the customers of TSM, the NVIDIA and AMD, one of many, they're both down quite significantly today. Jim, what do you think about the situation?
Well, I think the demand for the supply is still strong and will be
Yeah,
strong in the foreseeable future. So yeah, Taiwan semiconductor stocks, it's still a good play. Or, I was in it a long time ago and got out when Chinese warships were circling the island. And maybe I got out prematurely, but it was okay. I made more than my target on that stock, but I still own NVIDIA and AMD. And I think, we're in for a little, I think the election nearing is making the markets jittery. I think that yields have gone up, so that there are other places to put your money. But I think that's short term. I expect after the election is finally over, seems like an eternity, 2 weeks, but that these stocks, I expect, I'm not making a prediction here, but I expect the S&P to hit 6,000 by the end of the year. So I'm still bullish. I still think that in the long run, all of these plays in the AI arena, NVIDIA, AMD, and my personal favorite, MRVL, Marvel. It's my favorite because no one's talking about it, and I think it's positioned well. But these stocks, I think, are still primed to be strong. The demand is not going away. So the demand for these products that AMD and NVIDIA provides more of a full service type of proposition, but Taiwan Semiconductors just provides the chips, and the demand for chips is not going away.
That's exactly right. Milan, what are your thoughts? S&P today is down, but you probably sold covered calls, so you should be okay on S&P.
Over the next 5 decades, we will have 7 to 10 recessions. During those recessions, we can protect ourselves by selling covered calls and cash secure puts. And so that's what I do. We don't buy individual stocks.
Right.
We buy the American market as a whole, the strongest market over the last 200 years. So we buy SPY, which represents the S&P 500. It's an exchange traded fund, which represents the S&P 500. There are about 6 of them. SPY is the best because it's the oldest. It has the shortest, the smallest put call, the smallest
Spread.
ratio. And so that's what my wife and I do. We don't pick stocks. Nobody should. You know, when you pick stocks, you're buying a stock from somebody who is selling it. If the stock goes up, the buyer
Same
is,
goes for SPY. When you are buying SPY, you are buying it from somebody else, right?
yeah, but you know that it will recover. It will always go up. In the short run, no, but in the long run, absolutely yes.
No,
So,
but your idea is that you shouldn't buy certain stocks because you're buying it from somebody else. And you,
well, no, that's not the only reason. You buy certain
okay, I agree with theory. There are millions of reasons not to buy individual stocks. But
you
this one is not one why you shouldn't buy it. Because SPY you are buying from somebody else.
well, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so, because we will, today, the market is down. It's supposed to be up on a Wednesday. So that's what you recommend, Sasha. But
Last 7 Wednesdays it was up. So today
Yeah.
is
so,
exceptional.
and so, like I mentioned, over the next 5 decades, we won't be around, but our estate will be around, and we're going to have 7 to 10 recessions. But if during those recessions, we sell covered calls and cash secured puts, we're going to be all right. We'll be making money all the time.
It's
Now,
not necessarily we will be all right, but executors of our estate should be all right as well.
yeah. Now,
God
uh,
bless them.
talking to my pharmacist who gets interested in covered calls, and so I said SPY is the best security to have. And he's a young man, and to have a board lot of SPY, you need close to $70,000. And so he doesn't have it yet. He's a young man. So I recommended that he do that with Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is a stock. We don't recommend picking stocks, but there are some exceptions to that. So Coca-Cola is selling for around $70 or less. So instead of needing a huge amount of money to sell covered calls and cash secure puts, you only need about $7,000 or a little less than that if you do that with Coca-Cola. The trouble with Coca-Cola and derivatives is that they trade only once a week instead of daily. And so being able to sell covered calls and cash secure puts on SPY on a daily basis is a very handsome income source. And so that's what we recommend. And so that's where we stand. My wife and I do it every day, first thing in the morning, expiry date, end of the same day, just out of the money. And we are making a handsome living doing that. Beats working for a living. I practice dentistry. Dentistry can be stressful. This isn't we're done in less than 10 minutes first thing in the morning.
Dentistry can be stressful, that's for sure, and everything. I did have a question for Sasha and I guess other folks, because I think I heard you mention this company before, but I was looking up and doing a little bit of research and everything. But it looks like Lulu has gone public and everything along those lines. So I just wanted your thoughts when a company goes public, because apparently they've declared that they're going public, and as of today on the Abu Dhabi exchange, and they've already offered listings of 25% of their share and everything. So I just wanted your.
You're talking about Lululemon?
No, I don't think so.
You're talking about something else because
Okay,
Lululemon
you
has
talk
been
about
around a long
Lululemon, right?
time.
Yeah,
Right.
This is Lulu Retail Holdings, but it was Lululemon that I've heard you talk about before and everything. So that's why I was getting confused at and everything. But yeah, I've heard it. But this is Lulu Retail Holdings. Apparently, they've got a lot of stores around the country. It's like those hypermarket chains.
But they've been on the market for years. And, they're well regarded. It's very good stock, but it has its ups and downs. And I've done a few trades on Lululemon last year. They were profitable for me, but then the stock went down, and I couldn't figure out what's the bottom for that stock. And I don't like bottom fishing anyway. So now, when it will show some good results for a quarter or two, maybe it would be a time to get involved again. But right now, it's doing quite well, actually.
Yeah, it seems like it's doing well. Just really quickly, because I know you brought it up, Jim, and everything, that the U.S. elections, but BlackRock executive recently came out and said that the outcome of the looming U.S. elections, because it's only 2 weeks away, really doesn't matter for the financial markets. Because he said that I'm tired of hearing this is the biggest election in your lifetime. The reality is, over time, it doesn't matter. And he's the co-founder of the world's largest asset manager. And he said that more than half of their firm's 11.5 trillion in assets are under management were retirement funds. And he's saying that unfortunately there's too much preoccupation with whether the market is going up or down at any one time, one quarter. It really doesn't matter. And he said that they're going to work with both administrations and are having conversations with.
Oh, I agree with that. And we're talking about two different things. We're talking about the market in long term, as he is, and the market in short term, which is what I was referring to. And there's a little bit of jitters in the market right now. That will pass, which is what my point was. And the fourth quarter, I think, will be good. And I just want to say there's a Lulu's Fashion Lounge, I think, which is what you're talking about. Yes. Lululemon has been established for a long time, selling for just under 300. And Lulu Fashion Lounge is selling for 1.58 right now. And I know nothing about it. So I can't comment about it. The fashion is definitely not my area of expertise.
I'd like to mention something about election. I was thinking a lot about the upcoming election. And I don't think that majority of American people don't understand Trump's tax cuts and what's happened in the last 8 years with that. So what Trump did, he cut taxes tremendously for very well-off individuals and corporations. What that means? That means the Treasury is getting much less money in, but they need money to keep operations. So what they're doing, they're issuing much more debts,
yes,
bonds, anything. And who are buying these bonds and debts? The same wealthy Americans and corporations with the money that they were supposed to pay in taxes. But instead of paying these taxes, now they're buying these bonds and debts and so on. So they keep the money, they earn interest on the money, and average American is being squeezed. In enormous, it's the greatest redistribution of wealth in America in the last several decades, probably.
You're making a great point, Sasha. The federal debt expanded by like 25% under Trump's administration for precisely the reasons that you're outlining. And what I've been saying all along is that the American economy is doing extremely well. Corporations are reporting record earnings. Wages have gone up more than inflation has gone up. Unemployment has gone down. It was hitting 50-year record lows during the current administration. All of this is true, but there's also this tremendous income inequality in the United States, where the rich are doing extremely well. The rich are getting richer. But there's a disconnect between the people who do not have the money, do not have the resources to buy stocks, for example, and they're suffering. And so they're voters too. So, they don't see the benefits of a great economy. But the numbers are irrefutable. And the idea of Trump's tariffs on everybody, that is just a loser. Because when you slap tariffs on targets, that people who are bringing things to market, undercutting the market by illegal or immoral practices, yes, slap a tariff on them. But if you do it on a broad scale, they don't pay it. They pass it along to the consumer. And so the consumer either has to do without something that they want or pay more for something that they want.
We all always talk about the fund portfolio and everything, and I think I just found a fund portfolio item that could be interesting for folks to get involved in, and it would also play into what you just said around tariffs, because unfortunately it is a thing that is from another country, but apparently it's doing quite well in Canada, Sasha, and everything. But I'm looking up and I'm seeing, because I remember I had relatives of mine that used to work for AMF Bowling and all along those lines, but apparently Hollywood Bowl, which is a bowling operator as well, like bowling balls and everything, they do 10-pin bowling operators, and apparently they rose by 2.3% and said they were expecting their full year earnings to come in ahead of expectations, driven by their growth in Canada and following a period of strong demand from customers seeking what a lot of people have been seeking during this time, which is low cost, family friendly activities in a cost of living crunch when people are trying to find something cheap that they can do. So their full year revenue hit 230.4 million pounds, which is up 7.2%. So apparently a lot of y'all are bowling over there in Canada. So Milan and Sasha, are a lot of y'all going out bowling and everything, because apparently they're driven by the growth in Canada. And I
It
know
will be even many more once Trump will become, if he will become president. So there will be many more unemployed people, and they will all get involved in bowling. They will have a lot of free time.
Is there a solution to the problem?
Solution to the problem: to vote for Harris. I don't see any other solution besides
Well,
that.
there's a solution that, regardless of who gets elected, would work, in my opinion, and that is a guaranteed annual income for everybody. Yes, somebody will abuse it. Any system that's open to abuse will be abused by somebody. We just have to accept that. But a guaranteed annual income, we had, for instance, the equivalent of that in Canada with a baby bonus. People, my friends, my colleagues are earning big bucks, $300,000-$400,000 a year. They're getting a baby bonus. So it's the equivalent of a guaranteed annual income. If both countries, very wealthy countries, introduce a guaranteed annual income large enough for people to be able to buy groceries and pay the rent.
And who's going to work, Milan?
Like I said, Sasha, any system that's open to abuse will be abused. So yes,
No, I'm not talking about abuse. I'm talking about normally, let's see, your guarantee income. In Switzerland, it was equal to $3,000 a month. So if a family gets a guaranteed income, $3,000 a month, and they live according to their means, there is no incentive to go and work all day and getting their whatever wages they can get. And even if they will get more than 3,000, but they have to pay taxes and so on and work all day, I don't see any incentives. I think in this case, the countries that implement this guaranteed income, they will need as many legal and illegal immigrants as possible. So that's the only people who will consider to work. All other people, they will quit their job, sell their cars because they don't need them anymore, maybe downsize a little bit their houses, and they can live a wonderful life until they're 97 years old without any worries.
But Sasha, in that same line, maybe we could all invest in Kenvue, because apparently Kenvue is the producer of brands like Tylenol and Neutrogena. So I'm thinking a lot of people are going to be heading toward diet kind of things, which is what I think Neutrogena is, if I remember correctly. And definitely they're going to be heading toward having headaches, whether it's around the election or whether it's around a number of other things as well. So I'm thinking if you are invested in a company that is making headache drugs, you might do well and everything along those lines. But I could be wrong, because y'all are.
I'd like to talk about something else, about voting for Trump option. Now, you know that his vocabulary of 55 words that he has, most of the time he's talking about America first. Did he invent that, America first? Absolutely not. No, he didn't invent that. That's been around for last 100 years. It was around before Great Depression, America first. America didn't want to participate in any wars. But what's happened for the Great Depression was actually that it was complete overhaul of that America first idiom. And there was a actually great improvements in social payments, unemployment insurance, and a lot of this has been implemented by Franklin Delano Roosevelt at the time when he was president. He had many elections go on, and whenever America First was again at the forefront, America didn't do that well. And I want to tell you something. What I'm scared is that now, if Trump wins and will implement full circle America First, he will withdraw from all over the world, including Europe and NATO and everything else. And America will be completely isolated in its territory, whereas other countries, with the BRICS meeting right now in Russia and so on, the other countries are trying to make alliances and make new associations, and as a result, America could become redundant. And what's happened is that this is completely inexcusable with the military budget of over or close to $1 trillion a year, which surpasses any or probably all countries put together on Earth. They are not implying this tremendous power what they have. They absolutely don't. And the only thing is, okay, they were brave enough to fight countries like Iraq or Afghanistan, but when it comes to a little bit higher level, like for example Ukraine now, or what Israel was now, they are taking approach wait and see, not to commit themselves. See, okay, well, Ukraine, maybe they won, or they didn't won, so they lost. Well, they lost. Russia is very strong. Okay, so what can we do about that? This is a horrible position that does not help America to keep it standing as the greatest power in the world. And with that, if it's complete withdrawal with the tax tariffs and everything else, America will become just one of many countries. And it's dollar what makes America so great. It can start losing its relevance.
Sasha, that is inevitable. Empires have a 100% failure rate, as I keep saying. You know, the 15th century belonged to Portugal, the 16th century belonged to Spain, the 17th century belonged to the Netherlands, the 18th belonged to France, and the French still think that it does. The 19th belonged to Great Britain, the 20th belonged to the United States. 20th century, United States. We're now in the 21st century. Empires have a 100% failure rate. The failure of the American empire is nowhere near in sight, but someday it will happen.
Well, I want to go back to what Mark was saying about it. It really doesn't, normally, it doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Democratic president, the market's going to go rolling around. And that's been true because, you know, if Bob Dole, who was a patriot, got elected, it wouldn't have made any difference to the market. If John McCain had beaten Obama, it wouldn't have made any difference to the market. You know, but, you know, Trump's a different animal. And we have to look at these things from, you know, when he starts to do these, isolation has been a long history in America. You know, we did not get into World War II until we were bombed at Pearl Harbor. So we would have allowed Nazi Germany to conquer Europe. And so this is a bad long-term strategy because we are in a global economy. We will only stay strong if we participate in a global economy. So the isolationists have always been wrong. We have to participate in many ways, and sometimes we have to take a stand when a fascist tries to take control. What's going on in Ukraine now is an autocratic despot who's doesn't care about the suffering of people, is doing something that's unconscionable. So right now we're just supporting it with weapons. You know, the same thing is with Israel. We're supporting it with weapons rather than human beings. And these types of things have always been a sore point in American politics. But I think the American ideal is we have to take a stand. And we will under a Harris or any normal Republican, but with Trump, who knows what's going to happen. And the other thing that's always been true about Democrats and Republicans is that they have put good personnel into the positions around it, the the Department of Secretary of State, the Department of Finance, and all these people have been professionals. With Trump, you're going to get lackeys. You're going to get yes people who are lined up to agree with Trump, and you're not going to get professionals. So this is a great danger that people are not talking about.
Why does Trump get so much support? Nearly 50% of Americans support Trump today.
He appeals to our worst nature. And, there's the better angels that I believe will win. And there is the worst nature, which he riles up. He plays to anger. He plays to fear.
Jim,
And, when these things take charge or are operating at the level of the leader of the free world, the POTUS, that means that America has lost its way, lost its values. It's no longer
along those same lines, don't you
deserved.
feel that to some degree that he also appeals because of both, like I said, we talked about in one of the earlier shows of the Apprentice show and everything, and he definitely is our modern day version of P.T. Barnum, and definitely people like a show. Sometimes they like a show that they know is going to be an accident waiting to happen. It's part of the appeal of car shows and the other things that that part of the appeal, I hate to say it, is that you're looking for the crash, even though you don't want the crash to happen, but that's part of the appeal. So I'm wondering if that's not part of the Trump appeal. And by the way, Sasha, I saw that he said he's going to take us back to 1798. He actually said that, I think, in a speech either yesterday or the day before. And 1798 was when slavery was around, and also women didn't have a right to vote. So I'm wondering about some of these things he's saying he's going to take us back to.
I'm afraid in Trump's case, in my opinion, by far the worst case scenario is, his love of a strong man like Putin, Kim Jong-un, the Emperor Xi, Ayatollah, and all that stuff. It's not only that these people are enormously rich, of course, but it's also perception that these people are ruling their country forever until their death. Now, all these democratically elected clowns, like in the UK or France or Germany, they've been elected for 4 years, and in the fifth year they're nothing but garbage. So why should they even invest any time to work with them and communicate with them? It's all garbage. So with his idea that he should do only with strong men, and while he considers himself a strong man, it's very easy to anticipate that he will get very friendly with all these leaders, and with isolation of U.S. moving away from NAFTA and all civilized institutions, he will become a strongman number 5, and there will be no longer 4 evil dictators but 5, and that will become an enormously dangerous situation for a free world, for civilization as a whole, because how you can do something against this union of 5 strong men, which is Trump, Putin, Kim Jong-un, Emperor Xi, and whatever Ayatollah is there in Iran. So this is by far the most dangerous scenario that I can see.
People in power wanted to stay in power forever.
That's true.
Passed on to their children. And so the result of that has been really terrible. If you consider the Second World War to be the final battle of the First World War, and that's a reasonable assumption. It, by the way, ended the Depression, but that's a different subject. Then that was caused by 4 people, Turkey and Germany and Austria, Hungary, 4 people who would be minimum wage workers if they were in the United States or Canada today. They were not exceptional. They inherited their position. Inherited privilege has been a failing way for the world. Now, George Washington was the first person in history to say, I don't need any more than 8 years. And that's why we still have this 8-year thing in most developed countries today. And so that's Things
Yeah,
are
and the peaceful transfer of power has been one of America's greatest claims, is that people have stepped away from power,
yeah.
which is not, it goes against human nature to some extent, but that expectation is part of what everybody goes into this with one exception, and that's Donald Trump. You know, he refused to relinquish power peacefully. The Capitol was stormed. The people were there because he asked them to come there. He riled them up, and then they stormed the Capitol. And you know, he wanted his vice president to do something that's unconstitutional, and then he blamed him for being weak. So this is a person who wanted to retain power even when he had lost. So this is the type of thing that we as Americans should never put up with. The fact that he was nominated by the Republican Party shows how wrong the Republican Party has come.
Well,
They have taken a far right turn, and despotism is a far right thing. You know, that's
he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, and he hasn't started any wars. So that's his claim to fame. But really, he is a fine example of evil.
No, absolutely, totally agree with that. And I would like to mention also just a couple of words about immigration. I believe that United States need immigrants
of course.
more than any other country in the world. There are a lot of work in the United States, primarily in your state, California,
Yeah.
that now nobody but immigrants consider doing
The
that.
economy survives on it. Yeah.
Now, question is this: what's the fundamental difference between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants? In my opinion, the only difference is that illegal immigrants failed to pay their lawyers $10,000 in order to get a legal status. Other than that, they're all eventually working, they're all paying taxes, legals and illegals. There's no difference at all. So what you want to do with illegals? You want to tell them, oh, you didn't pay $10,000 to your lawyer, now we're going to get you for that? So that will benefit only lawyers, nobody else.
Right.
It's not going to benefit the country.
One of my proudest moments was when Ronald Reagan said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall."
Yeah.
And one of the most embarrassing moments was when Trump wanted to build a wall, and how many people were supportive of that. You know, obviously, what people don't pay attention to is we do have a legal system of immigration, but it's broken. It can't handle people coming in, and people are leaving where they live now because it's become uninhabitable. This is happening in Europe as well as the United States. You know, this is happening in Italy, France, Spain, Sweden. You know, that this is not something that's going to go away. People cannot live where they used to live, and they're coming. They're walking through jungles. They're crossing seas, and they're at great personal risk, at terrible peril. You know, and Trump is painting them as rapists and murderers. And no, these are desperate people. And on the Statue of Liberty, they say, "Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses." This is what America stands for. You know, we take those people in. We don't keep them out.
But you know, it's been proven about rapists and murderers and so on. It's been proven that statistically, among American white people, there are many more murderers and rapists than among immigrants, legal or illegal.
Yeah. Well,
so this is another stupidity of Trump's program, if he has one. Anyway, listen,
and they're eating cats and dogs too. You know, there is no end to their madness. They'll say anything that they think will get them voted. Bring up hatred for people, and it's a classic, you know, hate-fueled type of thing where you say they're the other. It used to be used against the Jews in World War II. You know, if you were Jewish, you were the other, and you were blamed for things that you had no control over, no involvement over. So
the best people came to North America from other countries. What happened is people who came here, they didn't speak the language, the food was unfamiliar, but they came because they had the courage to start. So the very best people from other countries came to North America, and that's what's happening today too, legal or illegal. So we need immigration. definitely. And you said America needs more immigration than any other country. Japan also needs immigration. Japan is in a terrible.
Japan is a very specific case because Japanese are entirely different people. I'm talking about in a good sense of the word, racially, ethnically, language-wise, culture-wise. There's so many barriers that you don't look like Japanese. So this is the different issue. For example, take Poland. Poland is a European country, but yet Poles have policy of Poland is for Poles only. They don't want immigration. I guess they have enough workforce to accommodate, and they want also their population, their race, and so on, be to remain as a whole as it is now, and they don't want to really. You can criticize them for that. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's their decision. That's what they say. Poland is for Poles only. You can say that, oh, it's racist, it's inhuman, it's all that stuff. But by the way, Russia wanted to bring lots of Palestinians and Arabs through Belarus to Poland when they have a border. Poland sent the army there asking to shoot, without asking any questions, anybody who will try to penetrate the border. So they stayed there for a few days and all went back down. You can again criticize it, it's inhuman, and God forbid they could kill some people, but that's what they decided to do in their country.
That's interesting, Sasha. You know that Canada and the United States are the most cosmopolitan countries on the planet. I was in South Korea a couple of years ago delivering a lecture. I was the only non-Korean there. Anywhere I went, you never saw a guy like me. Everybody was a Korean. Then I went to the Philippines, same thing, only Filipinos. You walk down the streets of Toronto or walk down the streets of Los Angeles, and you don't turn ahead if you see a guy with a turban and a black guy and a red guy and a white guy makes no difference. We're so accustomed to that, and we benefit from that. And probably the countries that exclude immigrants are suffering as a result of that. Japan, it could be argued, is suffering as a result of that.
Yeah, it could be argued. Okay, before we finish, I would like to tell you what we started with the investing. I was thinking a lot about options, covered calls specifically, and I uncovered a very interesting example. What I did, I took the stock. Let's say stock is $30 a share. So you're selling 32 covered call, say a month away expiration date. Now, there are 4 scenarios. What can happen to the stock? Stock can go down to 20, 28, maybe lower. It can remain the same. It can go up to $32. And it can shoot up to 38, 40, or if not higher. And what I figured out is that in 3 scenarios, 1, 2, 3, you end up making money. And only in scenario number 4, you're still making money, but not as much because stock ran away and you left a lot of money on the table. So 75% probability that you will make money, and the remaining 25 is you still make money, but not as much. So now, how can you argue about the virtue?
Well, the only way you can argue that is there's a better way of making money. Absolutely. The best way to make money, and this has produced a 16% annual return for over 100 years, is to sell covered calls and collect the premium and keep on doing that until you're assigned, and then you're in cash. Once you're in cash, you can sell cash covered puts and keep doing that and keep collecting premiums until you're assigned. Once you're assigned, you're back in owning the security.
Milan, there is a huge flaw in your suggestion.
Oh, really? Well, then you're wrong. But
I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what it is. Okay. With selling covered call, there are a lot of flaws already. But okay, I'm not going to touch that one. Now, if the market going down, you will, okay, once you're exercising your covered calls and you have cash and you sold put, and then if market continues going down, then you're exercising your put, you got more stock, but stock is continue to go down. And normally on the move downwards once every at least 2 years, sometimes more often than that, it goes down to 20 or more percent. And in that case, you will lose money on covered
Sasha,
puts.
the way to solve that problem is never to own individual stocks, but own the American
Applies to
economy.
individual stocks and S&Ps. There is no difference. You will exercise, you will sell put on individual stock, you will lose if stock continues to go down, and on S&P.
Do you see an Enron with SPY? Do you see an Nortel with SPY? Do you see
NVIDIA against SPI? Yes, I've seen that. I've seen SPY doing 8-10% a year, and NVIDIA is doing.
Of course, they didn't recover. They
I've
didn't
seen-
recover.
Well, you're both right, as you know, because you're
Exactly.
protected on the downside. Because if you're in it for the long term, the American economy will do well. The market will reflect that, and you will end up a winner, even if you have short-term losses. You don't have short-term losses unless you exit. And as long as you stay in the game, and, you will. Milan strategy will produce an income stream or a profit for you. There's no question about it. But you're more ambitious than you're listening to what Sasha's saying. And I'm kind of in between, and I have a little bit of money in index funds that provide to me. It's like being in cash.
Exactly. You're not planning to make a killing on
No.
SPY.
No, I'm not planning on making a killing, but where I do plan on making a killing is in a sector that I think is doing extremely well, booming, and picking those stocks that are representative, that are the best companies in that sector. And that's been my approach for 30 years now.
Question for stock pickers, which we recommend against. The question for stock pickers is, when you buy a stock, you're buying it from somebody who's selling it.
Oh my God.
But
Oh my
it's,
God.
I think there's a lot of suckers out there that don't know what they're doing. That's my conceit, perhaps.
If the stock goes up, the buyer is right, the seller is wrong.
Right.
If the stock goes down, the buyer is wrong, the seller is right.
If
I'm
I'm selling
to
at a
SPY. It's the same thing, Milan. The seller of SPY is not right. The buyer is right.
Will SPY ever behave like Enron or Nortel,
right,
or Pennsylvania Central
Right.
Railroad? SPY.
You're absolutely right. It's much safer, much more secure than any individual stock. But there are individual stocks, and you named Coca-Cola for one, that are But these things change over time too. So I think you want to look at your portfolio, even if you're a passive investor. Periodically look at your cash investment allocation. These are the types of things you don't want to pay too much time or attention to. But if you are someone who tracks it on a daily basis, such as Sasha and I, and you think you have a strategy that works, and your track record, your experience is that it does work, keep doing that too.
Question for Sasha. If a stock drops 7%, you get out of it. Is that part of your rules?
If I don't have sold covered calls, yes. If I
Yeah,
sold
okay,
covered
now,
calls, no.
What we do is, when SPY drops 7%, we buy more. Everybody is looking for bargains all the time. Why wouldn't you buy the American economy when it's a bargain? You wouldn't buy an individual stock when it's a bargain, because it will become a bigger bargain and become an Enron and a Nortel and a Pennsylvania Central Railroad. That's not going to happen with the American economy in our lifetime. Someday it will, because empires have a 100% failure rate. Now, the best expiration time for a covered call is as close as possible to the date that you write it. So if you sell a covered call first thing in the morning, expiry same day, it's produced a 60.
Hyper modern investing. I never considered buying covered calls and selling them for the expire on the same day. That was never part of my strategy. So it's wonderful that you bring that up and tell people about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Selling it the closest expiry date as possible. And so if it's the same date, it produces the same results. As I said, historically, 16% annually. That's been the case. And so that's liable to continue. Study the past if you will define the future, said Confucius. Likely to continue. And so,
Okay. I would like to get into example of what I've done with, for example, NVIDIA. I sold, I have substantial shareholdings, and one of the position I sold May 16, 25, 150 calls. I got paid for each call. It was 2, maybe 3 months ago. I don't remember exactly. I can look up for it. Anyway, I was paid for each call $13. So let's say I sold 10 calls. We're talking about $13,000.
you said you were paying. You were getting, not paying, but getting, right?
Yes, I was paid. I got it.
Yes, you were paid.
$13,000. Now, what represents $13? That represents the fact that I'm covered from at that time. My average price on Nvidia was was $135. So even if it will go down to $122 a share, where it could go, I'm not counting that out completely, but I'm still protected by this calls that I sold. So I'm not worried about where Nvidia is as long as it's higher than 122. Now, another example, I sold September 19, 2025, 155 call, 10 calls I sold. I was paid $16 for each call. It gives me even more protection. And I would never get money even close to that if I would be selling next a month's expiration call or a month and a half or whatever. It would never happen. So only this far expiration.
I agree. Sasha's approach is providing protection and still not limiting your upside as much. And this
Absolutely.
is also a good strategy.
This is what's interesting. NVIDIA is an example of innovation, and we should all go into innovation and get out of manufacturing. People who are into manufacturing hate their jobs.
It's very true.
They love Fridays, they hate Mondays, whereas people who are into innovation are there all the time, 24/7, and enjoy doing it. And so we should let the Chinese do the manufacturing. Well,
I will give you, and that's really what we did in the 80s, starting in the 80s, is offshore all of the manufacturing to other countries and rewarded the CEOs with gigantic bonuses. But what to talk about, both can't be right. We'll take NVIDIA as an example. I was an early investor in NVIDIA, and I more than doubled my money, and I was happy. Now, in my younger days, what I used to do was take what I had invested and sell that so that I could have no downside and keep the other half to be playing with house money. But this time, for some reason, I sold it all. But I was happy because I had more than doubled my money. I sold it to someone who was also happy because it kept going up. So, it was both buyer and seller were happy. And this is an example. When NVIDIA split, I invested again because it was too high for me to invest the kind of lot to buy a lot of it, 100 shares, a lot. And when it split, it was now more affordable. So I bought a couple more 100 shares of it, and I bought it at 105, something like that. It's around 130 now. So it's been paying off for me. But the way Sasha's doing it has been much more lucrative for him than the way I do it. And so I admire both of your approaches.
Yeah, no, Jim, I'm not trying to say that my approach is better than yours. It's a different approach and different goals
And
are.
it's what you be careful what you want. Is you get discipline yourself to what you can live with, the amount of risk you can take.
Jim, you said you were happy when you sold it because you made money, and the person you sold it to was also happy because it kept going up.
Yeah.
Did you sell too soon? Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the Rothschilds said, I made my money by selling too soon.
Yeah, I was happy. I don't want to get greedy and hang on. And then, the worst case is when you think you've got this stock and like Tesla was another one. Its volatility drove me crazy. But I had doubled my money in Tesla. So I sold, and then it was just off my mind. It was the source of anxiety for me. So I got rid of the anxiety. Kept going up, but then crashed back down. So who knows? But I think you just have to know yourself and know what you're comfortable with, and stay disciplined.
And you have to also a little bit of help if you can read the charts. I'm not chartist. I understand something, but I'm not expert on that.
And concentrate on revenues.
Yeah, but what I could see very clearly, one thing on chart, that NVIDIA got its resistance at 135. And it could come out very close to 135 or even stay at 35 and going down to 112, 122 or something like that. And it did it several times. But what I noticed is that its resistance remains at 135 and its support was going from 112 to 120, 125, it would go to 135, would come down, but 132. So each time it was going closer, to me, there was no question that it will definitely cross 135 and will go higher. The next resistance, I thought, was at 104.
There's a school of thought, if it breaks that resistance, buy it.
You know why? Because that resistance is becoming next support.
Yeah.
What's happened is that now when it closed at 143, and I told all my friends, don't buy NVIDIA until it will cross 141, which was all-time high. Because once it will cross it, there is no new resistance.
Right.
There is support. I still believe that there is a healthy support 135, which was resistance level just a couple of
years. You're talking here about momentum investing. I think that's what a lot of people would call it, because a trend is much more likely to continue than it is to reverse itself. But trend reversal is one of the few absolute certainties that we have.
Yes, I've seen it in my own personal investment. For things that go up don't go up forever.
Yeah, that's true too. You have to know what you're buying. You have to understand the company, its product, look at the chart, and come to intelligent decision. And if you don't want to do it, then buy SPY. Okay.
Exactly.
Effortless and secure. Yeah.
Yes.
But what you're doing with buying individual stocks takes time, and if you enjoy doing it, by all means do it.
Yeah.
One of our friends has a $10 million portfolio. It's got 100 securities in it.
So, Milan, I think you have to
be an expert on 100 securities.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you should expand your slogan: never buy individual stocks unless you have time to invest.
Okay, true.
How about that?
Time's important and everything. Like I said, y'all are wrapping up and everything. I just came in because I was like, wait a minute, he mentioned the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds do have a direct connection to North Carolina in addition to New York and a bunch of other places as well.
Sure.
They were some robber barons of the time. At that time, that there was a number of rich and powerful families, including the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and a number of others as well. But they definitely had their roots come down to the North Carolina area as well.
I see. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for today's program. I would like to mention that we're going to get together next week, same place, same time, and have a very, very successful trade.
It being a Wednesday, the market is likely to be up, right?
That's what we're planning for. Yeah.
That
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.